Shimagami Tensei Devil Summoner Kuzunoha Raidou vs Soulless armies or Devil Summoner Kuzunoha Raidou Tai Choriki Heiden is a modern-day detective story mechathon game released by Atlas in 2006 for PS2, and as you can see, this title is very much different from the usual mechathon games, but that's not all, because this game also has spin-off of and spin-off, making this a completely fresh idea born from the genius minds of publishing team. Took me around 30 hours to beat the game, and in this video, there will be full spoilers from beginning to end, as I will be documenting my entire experience with the game and talk about everything I remember until words start coming out of my head. For convenience sake, I will refer to this game as Devil Summoner 3 throughout this video, but there is a lot to cover about, so let's start talking right away. Devil Summoner 3 is set during the Taisho era in 1920s, a period when Japan was opening up to the war and different cultures were flowing into the country. The game explored things like adapting to change, old versus modern value, and the tension between preserving tradition and embracing new trends. The setting is beautifully depicted with pre-rendered backgrounds that are absolutely stunning and fits the game atmosphere perfectly. These backgrounds never fail to please me whenever they appear on the screen, and background music complements the vibe well too. These visual and auditory elements are among the most praised aspects of the game. However, opinions on the rest of the game are more mixed. The combat system allows you to control Raidou directly, using a sword, gun, and summon devils. In the opening cutscene, Raidou summons 8 devils, but in gameplay, you can only summon 1 at a time. Exploiting enemy weaknesses is still a thing, with damage types like fire, ice, electric, wind, physical, and cast. Gun plays a bigger role here, and hidden weaknesses stun enemies, letting you follow up with critical sword attacks or even capture them. Capturing devils involves a tug-of-war mechanic where you rapidly press the O button. Critical hits for your combo attack meter, which, when full, let you unleash a powerful combo attack depending on your build. The game features strength, magic, endurance, and leg stat, but notably, there is no speed stat, and this changes the gameplay significantly. Without relying on RNG for hits or dodges, everything depends on your reflexes. If you aim correctly, your attack will land, and you can dodge any enemy attack with proper timing. Since I am not great at reflex-based gameplay, I focus putting points into magic and endurance to tank hits and deal big damage with magic-based combo attacks. The lack of strategy variety in magic and devil types is common criticism of Devil Summoner 3, and I totally get that, because almost always the main selling point of mechathon games are their devils. But as you can see, this game is not about that, and even worse, being an efficient game means you are signing up for an even repetitive game than time-based games. So the game can get repetitive really quick, as the combat mainly involves around spamming sword attacks and firing guns in every single battle. So knowing all that, I went into the game with a mindset of getting through stuff as quick as I can without grinding. Devil Summoner 3 is like a timer for me in a sense, as in a race against the time phone for my enjoyment. So before the timer runs out, I managed to finish the game in under 30 hours, and because of that, I can see Devil Summoner 3 as a solid game and write a vanilla positive lukewarm review about it. Sometimes I think it is not the game itself, but the mindset of how you go into the game is what affects your gaming experience. And I did go into the game with the full intention of enjoying it as much as I can, because, well, what's the point of playing games if that is not the case, right? Anyway, I'm going on a long tangent again. So to sum things up, I actually find the combat system very fun and enjoyable. In battles, there is a delay time for every action you perform, including sword, gun, and magic attack. Sword attack goes for max 3 attacks, but if you start at 2 attacks and then flick the block button in between, you can completely ignore the delay and go for the rapid attacks, which I think are really satisfying, as I can keep slashing devils, leaving them no time to respond. Things can become really one-sided if you can pull this off. Like the press down mechanic is the main highlight of combat in other mechathon games, stagger mechanic is the highlight here. So here's my favorite stuff to do in combat. You can summon devil onto the field and have it use magic attacks, but the AI will do stupid things if you just leave your devil on its own, so I prefer to go manual on every single action my devil needs to perform. The menu are very quick and snappy and really interactive as well, so it's like playing both action and time-based game at the same exact time. As you get used to the control, your muscle memory will start to kick in, letting you weave in and out of menu instinctively. And you start triggering so many iframes from just opening menus and switching devils. For example, if you are getting hit by a boss ultimate attack and you forgot to guard against it, just open the menu and everything gets soft. The most notable iframe is definitely when you use your combo attacks, where you become completely invulnerable, and this way you can dodge the boss' powerful attacks by just standing there. that, or you can use L1 button to call your devil close to you and dodge stuff. But I just prefer returning my devil entirely back to dodge stuff all by myself first and then summon devil again when everything is finished. That's why I would be really surprised if you still think the game is still and repetitive even after all the things I have just said. But that's about it for the combat system, and for the rest, I will talk more about them as I walk you guys through everything that happened in the game from start to finish. Chapter 1. The game begins with Kuzunoha Raidou as a trainee and successor to Kuzunoha clan. Your first task is to go through a trial that serves as a tutorial stage where you learn the combat mechanics. The tutorial does a good job explaining everything you need to know, most of which I have already covered earlier. After completing the trial, you are assigned with the black cat as a companion for the silent protagonist, and this lady gave you a job as a detective, partnering you with Narumi, and this marks the official start of the game. The first major case begins with Gaia, your very first client. She asks you to kill her on the spot, but before you can act, red soldiers suddenly appear and take her away. Looking for her is going to take the entire half of the game, so we have a long way to go. After that, the game will open up completely, leaving you with no clear direction to go. That's what I would like to say, but more often than not, you just need to follow the cast command to progress the game, as if the game wasn't already linear enough. But first off, talk to this guy and have your devil use feed skill. Each devil have different feed skill like burning, freezing, and mind reading, etc. And you have to use them in order to gather information to progress the story as well as get gold items in dungeons. Then go to the antique shop where you can buy healing items, bullets, and bullets magazine. More items gets added to antique shop the more you buy and sell. You can fuse devils, but only up to double fusion. Skill inheritance exists, but they are all very shallow and easy to understand compared to the previous entry in the franchise. But as you progress the game, you will unlock additional options, such as sacrificing a devil to boost another stat or fusing devil into your sword to grant stat boost and resistance. However, these options require mass loyalty from the devil you are using. Loyalty system is like a stable Devil Summoner series, and it is especially easier to raise in Devil Summoner 3. All you need to do is fight with the devil in battle or give them alcohol to raise their loyalty. Alcohol can be bought from antique shop as well, but the one you find in dungeons and events are much better and can be sold for higher price. Aside from those consumable items, there are also items which exist solely for selling, and that's the fastest way to earn money. I faced a lot of money problems in Devil Summoner 3 because I didn't check my inventory and only noticed such items exist just before the game is about to end. So yeah, inventory management is yet again as important as ever. When exploring dungeon, you always have to take into account how effective the devil you have captured is and what kind of feed skill they have. That said, you don't have to bang your head against the wall every time you see devil, because Devil Summoner 3 has Devil Companion. This system saves so much time for decision making and planning, and it is hands down the best thing game developer has ever implemented in Mecha-10 games. But the only downside of course is your budget, as resummoning devil costs you a ton of money, which is another reason I didn't even bother trying to make a perfect devil, so I just use whatever devils I find along the way. Not really a pro gamer move, but it gets the job done. But before I talk about the next part, I want to talk about my favorite Pokemon game, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Not only I love Johto region and its Pokemon, I really love the walking Pokemon feature in these games. Now imagine that with devils, and you get this. One of my favorite devils to walk along with, or rather run away from, is Oboro Guruma, which is a car. But I didn't summon this thing much because it takes up half of my screen and I don't want the footage to be covered by this car. Not only you can walk around with your favorite devil, you can also enter combat with them, which makes it even more cooler. The cool factor of this game is just top notch in my honest opinion. Everything, just everything from character, atmosphere, music, and the way game plays hits every corner of the cool category. Albeit maybe not in the other categories, but for the cool category, I can guarantee you that this game will not disappoint you. In fact, you are able to do everything you think Devil Summoner can do, and that's why, if you want a real Devil Summoner experience, I highly recommend playing this game. There are 12 chapters in Devil Summoner 3, and first one revolves around the household where Gaia lives. Gaia is from a rich family, and the current head of the house is very sick, so in worst case when he dies, Gaia's uncle, Kiyoshi, is worried that the next successor Gaia will not be present, so he asks Raidou to go search for her. After that, when you try to go inside this room, the battler stops you, so you send your devil instead, as they are invisible to ordinary humans. Inside, you find a photograph of Gaia in a school uniform, giving you a clue to investigate the local school. Near the school, you gather information by mind-reading students and learn about Gaia's close friend, Rin. And when you try to question Rin about Gaia, she suddenly disappears right in front of you. Then the black guy explains that you need to enter a parallel world, which you need to access by visiting the nameless shrine and speaking to this lady who can send you to another version of Sukuto. Most dungeons in this game are ordinary versions of towns with only a few exceptions. Healing spot and save spot are available, but healing costs a significant amount of money, so I avoid using them except for the final dungeon. This dungeon also introduces Shikimi shadows, enemy that blocks your path and can only be defeated with a specific damage type, which in this case is electric. After dealing with them, you get to face your first mini-boss, Tsuchigumo, who is weak to ice, so I commanded Azumi to keep spamming ice magic, then I kept slashing with critical hits till I win. Choosing which devil to bring into battles requires careful consideration of their speed, attack animation, magic casting time, affinity and combo attack potential. For my playthrough, I focused on devils with fast movement and magic casting speed as I was prioritizing a magic build. Thankfully, Magnetite, a resource for summoning devils, isn't a major concern, as you only use it for summoning and analyzing enemies and not for walking around with devils. One unique aspect of Devil Summoner 3 is the contrast between Raidou's role and the world around him. As the only one who can see devils, Raidou often feels isolated, like a hero saving the world from the shadows. However, the presence of his blackguard and devils throughout the journey brings a sense of warmth and camaraderie. This balance of loneliness and companionship is something Atlas does well in their Megaten games, whether intentional or not. After defeating Tsuchigumo and saving Rin, you learn more about Gaia's family. So back at the mansion, if you use an electric devil's fiscal in this room, you uncover a hidden switch that opens a path to the mansion's underground area. It is here you encounter Tarex, a giant creature guarding the way forward. To proceed, you need to find alcohol that Tarex likes, which you can obtain by marinating one of the mates. After giving the alcohol to Tarex, it carries you deeper into the underground where you discover Gaia's diary inside a confinement. Upon returning to Kiyoshi for more information, you get to eavesdrop on the conversation between Kiyoshi and another unknown man by using your devils. Though I didn't fully understand the detail at this time, once I get back to the office, Narumi will summarize everything for me, which is convenient. So Kiyoshi is in distress as he had to sell off the factory to pay off his debt. Overwhelmed by guilt, distress, regret, and all kinds of negative emotions, Kiyoshi turns into this red manta and runs away. When you try and follow him, you get into a fight with the first boss fight with Ichimokura. You can't attack Ichimokura at all without clearing other devils first, so clean them up with fire and attack the boss with electric. After defeating the boss, you discover another devil summoner is also involved, marking the start of a larger conspiracy. That was a lot to take in for the first chapter, but I also learned a lot about the game because of it. But rest assured, because everything dies down quite a bit after chapter 1. And in case you are wondering, chapter 1 took me around 6 to 7 hours to get through. Chapter 2. The next day, a new client arrived at the office, who is Tae, a journalist. During this time period in Japan, working women face significant prejudice, but Tae is determined to prove her worth through hard work. She explained that while interviewing the owner of the restaurant, she managed to photograph Red Manda, who looks exactly like Kiyoshi. Then Tae passes the photo to Narumi, who then gives it to you. With this lead, you head to Ginza to investigate. In Ginza's under the bridge area, you meet a woman searching for the culprit who injured her husband and destroyed his taxi. From there, you visit the restaurant to ask the owner about Red Manda. Instead, you learn about the restaurant longtime rickshaw driver Harada, who lives in Fukugawa and is also well acquainted with Kiyoshi. Upon arriving in Fukugawa, you are stopped by a member of a local gang who demand you to seek permission from their boss to enter the area. So you head to the public bath where you had to face off against the gang in a face fight. And when you came out on top, your skill impresses their boss Satake. He then tells you about the flopping house area where Harada lives, about how red soldiers walking around the town, and also tells you to count on him when you need help with finding people in the future. You then locate Harada's house only to be ambushed by red soldiers who drag you into another wall. You see Harada locked behind the bars, and to free him, you need a lock-picking toolkit from the antique shop in the rear wall. So you need to make a little detour before you progress the game. Fukugawa Dungeon introduces stealth mechanic as you must use your devil to avoid detection by soldiers. Let your devil navigate along the river, send down a boat, and have Raidou use it to bypass the guards. Eventually, you reach Harada and get to fight 2 red soldiers. One uses a gun and the other a sword. This battle is tough, especially at this point in the game. In this fight, I rely on Orthodox for its speed and high attack power. though it quickly became a double-edged sword when all the rest got inflicted with confused BS. So I had to run around and heal until I managed to recover control of my dog. But even after you save Harada, you are still unable to acquire him yet. As he passes, you are to do him a favor first before he talks about Kiyoshi by finding his younger sister Shizu, who eloped with a taxi driver. So you have to return to Sadake for help. He explained that Shizu once came to him for assistance with finding a job to pay for her husband's recovery expenses. Sadake helped her find a job in Red Light District and now she is living there. Although she eloped with another guy, she is still waiting for the permission from her brother to marry that guy, so she is not all that inconsiderate person as I initially thought she would be. But Raidou is a bit underage to enter Red Light District, so the least Sadake could do is call Shizu out to meet with you at the entrance. After you have relayed her brother's message to her, she still refuses to come back before she finds the culprit. So she demands you to find the culprit first if you want her to return back to Harada. After that, go report back to Narumi, then go meet with Taye and make her in Ginza. According to her, red matter can only be sighted during full moon along the road that connects Ginza and the restaurant, which is around the area under the bridge. Then Taye gives you a pocket money and tells you to keep it a secret from Narumi, because apparently, Narumi hasn't been giving any salary to Raidou for the past 2 months and have been using it instead to eat out at a restaurant all by himself. I can't help but appreciate Taye for giving Raidou money instead of Narumi. If you investigate under the bridge during the full moon, you are attacked by a car, and defeating it grants you an item tied to the rickshaw driver. Now combine that with another item obtained from the homeless man under the bridge, you realize all clues point back to Harada. You then return to the restaurant owner, who mentions that taxi crashing incidents have resumed, prompting you to enter the Ginza dungeon and confront Red Mante. The fight with Red Mante occurs under the full moon. The force is very fast and uses beam attacks that can stun you. But overall, it's not a difficult fight. I used Jeffro throughout the battle, spamming ice magic to build up the combo attack meter and unleashing combo attacks repeatedly to win. After the battle, it is revealed that Harada is indeed Red Mante. During this time period, the rise of taxi business was driving the rickshaw business into decline. So, consumed by resentment towards all taxi drivers in existence, Harada lost control and started transforming into Red Mante every full moon. But he also acknowledged his wrongdoings and prepares to atone for his action, so everything ends well in the end. Back at the office, Narumi recounts the events, noting that not only Harada and Kiyoshi, but many people across the city are turning into Red Mantas. Also, after we had saved Harada, he did mention that Kiyoshi might be at his spinning factory, and so setting the stage for the next chapter. Chapter 3. Narumi begins this chapter by explaining that Taye has rushed into the spinning factory to gather material for an article. This creates another problem for Raidou, as he now has to find her while investigating Kiyoshi's whereabouts. Upon arriving at the factory, you find Taye lying unconscious shortly after encountering a group of mysterious Matryoshka dolls. To complicate things further, the man from chapter 1 reappears and sends you into a labyrinth, tasking you with gathering 3 items. Among these 6 dolls, all 3 on the left is correct one. The labyrinth has a looping maze-like structure similar to classic Lost Forest level in many RPGs. Thankfully, this labyrinth is very manageable due to its small size. Along the way, you also have the option to save walker trapped within the labyrinth. Rescuing all of them rewards you with bonus items and event later. While exploring, you encounter walls that are impossible to pass through. Unlike Shigemi Shadows, these walls cannot be broken and requires you to take an alternate route instead. After gathering 3 items, you can now break the sea and enter the room. Inside, you find Kiyoshi, and just before he is about to tell you everything, this fleshy blob thing called Hiruko came out of his back, rendering him unconscious. Poor Kiyoshi. He is just trying to make things right, but everything just had to keep going wrong. It is at this point you encounter your rival, the Dark Summoner Rasputin, who is based on an infamous historical figure in the real life. Rasputin is said to appear as recurring character in other Mechathon games, but I have yet to see him even once. He then explains some of the overarching mystery about Hiruko. Hiruko lives inside negative human emotions, and they are the reason why people transform into Red Mantas. And once Hiruko has consumed enough energy from this host, it moves on to his next stage of evolution. Rasputin also hints that Gaia also plays an important role in his client's project, but refuses to elaborate further, which then leads to a boss battle against Cherunobog. Cherunobog is inspired by Slavic mythology, adding a blend of Western and Japanese mythological elements into the game. The fight involves identifying and attacking the real Cherunobog among several illusions. I had a human-headed chicken that shoots fireballs that has combo move that creates fire sheet, which is completely useless in this fight since Chernobyl primarily uses ice attacks. After the fight, because I have saved all the walkers, they will come and give their thanks to their boss for everything he had done for them, even though the factory was ceased to exist in a couple of days. Then I gave Gaia's father's item, which I got from Battler, which represents forgiveness for Kiyoshi's mistake, particularly selling the factory to pay off his debts. Inspired by the walker's gratitude, Kiyoshi regains hope and rewards you with the electric bullet magazine. It doesn't really make much sense contextually, but I will gladly take it. Back at the office, only after Narumi summarized all the events in this chapter did I remember the unconscious Tae lying on the floor back at the factory this entire time. This isn't the first time I have forgotten about her, and it certainly won't be the last. But still, after all that stuff, we still weren't able to acquire Kiyoshi at all, as he got immediately sent to hospital. So instead of solving mysteries, this chapter raises even more questions with the appearance of Rasputin and the revelation of Hiroko phenomenon. And then the lady from the nameless shrine visits the office in broad daylight to explain more about Rasputin and the existence of Devil Summoner organization all across the globe. Then after warning you that Rasputin is a formidable enemy, she abruptly leaves. Like, what was that all about? Well, at least now it is quite clear that Rasputin holds answers to a lot of mysteries, so it is only fair that we start chasing this guy down in the next chapter. Chapter 4. This chapter begins with an antique shop owner visiting the office in a panic. He explained that a shipment of important goods he ordered has gone missing, along with the sailors he hired to guard it. So now, with no one to turn to, he pleads for Narumi and Raidou's help in investigating, which could be a potential theft. This leads you to Harumi, the #1 port city in the capital. At the port, you meet with the restaurant owner from Ginza again. She is also involved in managing the business with overseas trading company alongside a restaurant after her brother drowned at sea with his ship. She also expresses concern for the antique shop owner, one of her regular customers, and is waiting anxiously for the missing ship to return. After reporting this back to Narumi, you are surprised to find Narumi putting effort into investigation for once. So far, we know Rasputin entered Japan illegally, so he can be found through conventional means, which means there is only one man we can count on, and it is Satake. But instead, Satake tells you about Elfman, another foreign merchant who worked closely with the restaurant owner's brother. Rumor has it that Elfman changed completely after his rival's death and is now associated with powerful military figures, making him basically untouchable. But we are not really here for Elfman nor owner's brother, but for Rasputin. So Satake retracts his tangent and just straight up tells you that it is even impossible for him to find someone like that. Now return back to Harumi, and there you see antique shop owners joining the watch party at the port along with the restaurant owner. And just when hopes are starting to pile up for both of them, one of the sailors appears, bringing Banyu with him. It seems 3 sailors and the ghost have disappeared yet again. Now with no leads in the real world, you shift your investigation to other world. Harumi dungeon pits you against a group of bad-like devils as you attempt to save the missing sailor. Then you fight these 2 mini-bosses who reveal that they indeed were hired to steal the goods by an unnamed individual. These 2 bosses are incredibly fast on their feet, making it difficult to land attacks. But after defeating them, you recover the missing goods, ensuring the price at the antique shop will go down, as well as solving the case at the same time. Additionally, you obtain a ring given to the restaurant owner by Elfman and information about the church on the other side of the port where Elfman might be hiding. But to reach it, you will need the help of Tardex. Negotiating with Tardex as a delightful throwback to the classic devil negotiation system in Megaten games. This segment made me smile as I thought Devil Summoner 3 had largely moved away from this particular system, judging from how things are going so far. Once Tardex agrees to help, you can now use it to ferries across the sea, providing a faster and cheaper alternative to train travelers on the overall map. Before heading to the church, I made a quick detour to the lab near Ginza and talked to this dog who listens to your dreams. The dreams you share will come into play later in the final dungeon, offering bonus items, so be sure to remember your own dreams. Once you get to the church, visit the grave and speak with his god. You then realize this is the remain of Elfman after confirming his identity by showing the ring the owner gave you. Turns out Elfman that exists in real life is actually fake. Then when you enter the church, you find Rasputin, who is actually a fake Elfman in disguise. Although Rasputin bears no ill feelings toward Raidou, he had to eliminate him since he has the potential to be a hindrance to his client's project. This leads to a boss fight against Rasputin. In this fight, he hides inside 3 Matryoshka dolls he has summoned. Guns break the doors faster than other attacks, and I got lucky by finding the real Rasputin on my first try. I summoned my car driver for this fight, letting it run over Rasputin while I tank his attacks with healing items. This straightforward strategy worked, and I eventually cornered Rasputin to secure victory. After the fight, it is revealed that Rasputin is actually an android, and he somehow managed to survive the fight with us. Back at the office, Narumi summarized everything for us once again. But I am still wondering how the request from the old man leads towards finding Rasputin of all things. Such convenient chains of events can only be exist within the games. That said, I can't help but hope my life will be the same as well. During Narumi's summary, the game's Japanese title Superpower Army Corps is mentioned, but this was changed to Soulless Army in the Western release to sound cooler, but I personally prefer the original as it is more straightforward. But more importantly, Rasputin's defeat provided a major breakthrough as we finally get to know Gaia is around somewhere in military base called Kasumitai. And so, after nearly 12 hours of gameplay, we finally get significant story progression, setting the stage for the next chapter. Chapter 5. The chapter begins with Narumi and Raidou discussing how to infiltrate Kasumitai, where Gaia is reportedly being held. Their planning is interrupted when Taria rushed into the office, explaining that she had received a phone call from a military officer who claimed that he wanted to reveal everything to her about their secret project. Despite the suspicious nature of the call, Narumi believes it is worth investigating and decides to have you accompany Tae to Kasumitai. Once inside, you must locate the officer who contacted Tae. To create a distraction, you fire a cannon to get the attention of the guards, which clears the previously blocked area. However, things begin to take a turn when you discover that the officer has been branded as a traitor. So you run back to Tae to check on her, only to find her missing camera. Since Raidou isn't familiar with cameras, you head to an antique shop and ask the old man there to retrieve the photo inside the camera. And develop image reveal Tae and officer being sucked into another wall. Don't ask how the camera managed to take a photo on its own, so let's just dive into the dungeon. In Kasumitai dungeon, you quickly find Tae unconscious again and meet the officer Sadakichi, who managed to escape with top secret document related to the Super Soldier project. Unfortunately, during his escape, he scattered the paper across the dungeon, and it's now your job to go collect all 8 of them. To retrieve the document, you will need devils with specific feat skills like electricity and flight. Up to the 7th one is still fine, but the last one is a bit tricky. So to get to the final paper, you must ask a group of zombie soldiers for information, which then leads to a random encounter, and from this random encounter, you can obtain the last paper. Once you have collected all 8 papers, Sadakichi explained the project. Munakata is the mastermind behind this project, and he aims to create a ship manned by an army of immortal soldiers and let them invade enemy nations. Their experiment involves manipulating Hiroko, which feeds on human emotions and transforms people into red mantas. But before Sadakichi can elaborate further, the boss Nebilos appears, leading to a battle. Nebilos is weak to wind, so I use wind bullets and rely on combo attacks. In this game, guns infused with elemental properties still count as gang attacks, which Nebilo can block, so I found combo attacks more useful because they count as both sword and elemental attack at the same time. After defeating Nebilos, Sadakichi drives you to an underground facility located in the middle of the sea near Harumi. To access the facility, you must dial 493992221 backward in this telephone booth. The highlight of this underground facility is this Shikimi shadow that can continually revive itself and cannot be defeated. So instead, you must negotiate with the devil responsible for maintaining the shadow and have it break down the wall for you. This clever mechanic added some variety to the dungeon, but not gonna lie, dungeons are legit the most boring part in Devil Summoner 3. It is here you finally encounter Munakata, the main antagonist. Notice how he always covers his mouth when talking because this detail will make sense later. He sees the current state of Japan as oppressive when the only authority prosper while the weak suffer. He believes the nation is headed for destruction unless drastic changes are made, and to achieve this, he seeks to overthrow the current system by completing the Super Soldier project and reimagining the country's foundation. However, he claims the project can only succeed with Gaia, urging Raidou to abandon his mission and join him instead. Naturally, Raidou refuses, as rescuing Gaia remains his top priority, which then leads to a boss battle against Abi Hiko and Nagasunge Hiko, twin brothers with complementary abilities. Abihiko is weak to fire, while Nagazune Hiko is weak to ice. I first focused on Abihiko for no reason, and once his health dropped below a certain threshold, the two began using a devastating combo attack, which I gave an official name, Spinning Brothers. This attack started off fast but slowed down over time, and this attack is also unblockable. To minimize damage, I returned my devil back and focused on dodging alone before summoning it back once the attack was over. When one of the brothers is defeated, the other powers up, but this also simplifies the fight as Spinning Brother is no longer used. With one less threat, I hammered the remaining brother with everything I had. After defeating the twins, Kaya is finally rescued. However, the story doesn't wrap up here. With Munakata stay active and is likely to come after her again, Narumi suggests Kaya stay at the office for her safety and to assist with their detective work in the meantime. This might set up a more lively dynamic at the agency, leaving me curious about what's to come in the next chapter. Chapter 6. The chapter starts with Narumi and Kaya missing from the office. When suddenly phone call from the antique shop owner asks you to come pick up the goods that Narumi ordered, which is a box full of bullets. While at the shop, a scene unfolds where Kaya is shown cutting her hair. This moment is very unsettling, especially since Kaya always seems to love her hair. When Kaya returns to the office, he sees strands of hair scattered all across the floor, leading him to assume she had run away again. However, Kaya reappears with an angry expression, startling Raidou, only to quickly shift back to her usual cheerful demeanor. Kaya then explained that she had overheard Munakata discussing about the crystal that has the power to complete his project, and she wants to find that crystal, so she asks you to help her. However, with no list on the crystal location, this chapter focuses entirely on investigating. I'm pretty sure Munakata had told us that he only needs Kaya to complete his project and not a single mention of the crystal. Something definitely smells fishy in this room for sure. To start off the investigation, first stop at the antique shop where the owner mentioned that while he has an ordinary crystal, he doesn't carry the kind Kaya is seeking, so he suggests speaking to Victor, the man who runs the devil fusion shop in his basement. There, Victor reveals the existence of the Goshiki Futo, 5 immovable statues, a recurring element in the Megaden series. He also mentioned a hidden 6th statue, the colorless statue, said to be enshrined near the bay along with the crystal. The bay reminds Raidou of Harumi, but before heading there, the Black Cat suggests visiting Satake. But because Satake's expertise lies in finding people, he can only refer you to Professor 99, a rocket enthusiast who might know about the historical statue. Professor 99 recalls hearing about a statue near Ginza, but he admits his memory is fuzzy. It is time like this that journalists like Taya comes into play, so when you go meet her at the milk bar, she explained that part of Ginza was actually smashed long time ago and talks about the rumor which had been circulating these days in Ginza about a strange statue found near the construction site. This clue points you to a construction site under the bridge, so let's go there. There are many instances of getting lost in Devil Summoner 3 due to the static background and the fixed camera, and finding the construction site is one of them. It actually took me a while to realize that the construction site entrance is directly to the left of where Kaya is standing. Once inside, Kaya starts reflecting on her role in shaping the future. She then questions about destiny, asking whether one should kneel before the fate or pave their own path despite all the odds. When I chose to answer one should pave their own path, Kaya agreed, sharing her belief that everyone has a purpose in life and hers happens to be creating a new future for this country. Then, in a shocking twist, Kaya disappears right in front of Raidou. Despite this sudden event, Raidou calmly returns back to the office to report back to Narumi, as if nothing game-changing just happened. This abrupt shift in story feels out of place and too sudden, but it keeps the mystery surrounding Kaya alive as we move into the next chapter. Chapter 7. This chapter opens with Narumi stumbling into the office, battered and bruised, accompanied by Satakichi, the officer from Kazumitai. Sataki then reveals his true identity as a marine spy working undercover to monitor Munakata's activities. However, Munakata discovers Satakichi's betrayal and retaliated by inflicting a curse on his law. So to lift the curse, Satakichi pleaded for Raidou's help. And if you were to refuse, he warns Narumi might face dire consequences. So with no choice, you head to the nameless shrine where the lady transfers the curse from the law to Raidou, allowing you to track its source by feeling the curse inside you. The curse deals significant damage whenever the movie changes, adding a layer of urgency and annoyance to your journey. The dungeon itself requires breaking a sea that renders war unbreakable, and to locate the sea, you must interrogate these two numbskulls who reveal its location piece by piece. And once the sea is removed, you proceed to face Hidokoto Nushi, the boss of this chapter. Hidokoto Nushi is one of the Kunizugami, and he bears grudge towards Amazugami, which we can already predict how the story is going to be about humans getting caught amidst Amazugami and Kunizugami grudge war, like in every other Megaten games. This boss is an interesting fight. It has 4 forms. First one is human-like shape and it is weak against fire, and once you deplete enough HP, it will turn into a bird, and now it is weak against electric. Then it will change to a dog, and this time it is weak against ice. Then finally, it changed into a door form that doesn't have a weakness. So I called out Jeffro to pilot combo attack meter first and kept unleashing combo attacks one after another. To land attacks consistently, I cornered the boss in each phases, minimizing the chance of missed strikes due to awkward hitboxes. After defeating Hidokoto Nushi, Sadakichi thanks Raidou for saving his lord. He then proceeds to elaborate further on the Super Soldier project, much of which you have already learned, except from the new detail about radio towers. These structures emit waves that cause mental breakdown in people, turning them into mindless zombies and bursting Hiroko. And Munakata plans to use these zombies as soldiers aboard his ship to invade other countries, making this a central aspect of his plan. Back at the office, Narumi, thankfully recovered from his injuries, expresses his gratitude for saving him. Then he shares half of the bullet he ordered from the antique shop and insists Raidou to focus on radio tower, and once again stressing Sadakichi's perspective entirely, as every story has 2 sides. With this advice, the chapter ends and the stage is set for the final act of the game. Chapter 8. The chapter begins with a plan to investigate the radio tower, a key component of Munakata's Super Soldier project. You must use the power of mind reading on a frightened soldier who reveals that Munakata is currently present at the tower. So to avoid unwanted attention, Raidou decides to enter the tower through the other wall, where it has transformed into the grotesque structure made of bodies of Hirokos. Then you immediately got attacked by red soldiers, and this time I have Santi with me. She is the best fire devil in the game, as she has a really fast magic casting time along with fire combo attacks. In this game, you can easily inflict mass out damage if you have maxed out magic stat on Raidou, so all you need to do is land those weaknesses. The dungeon introduces an interesting mechanic where you get to ride on Hiroko to cross gaps. The creature's route changes depending on whether Raidou or the devil is riding, requiring you to switch between the two to progress. At the top of the tower, you encounter Munakata in the room that looks disturbingly like the inside of a colon. Munakata delivers yet another lore-heavy monologue explaining his motivation. He recounts a tale from the Japan's history of how the ruler descended from the sky, declaring himself as a war sovereign, and proceeds to massacre anyone who refused to obey him. And according to Munakata, Japan was built on the corpse of those who opposed this ruler, and his goal is to avenge those ancestors by using the Super Soldier project to destroy the very nation that betrayed his brethren. Munakata also reveals that he plans to resurrect the Super God using energy transfer from a satellite in the space. Then he once again invites Raidou to join his cause, but Raidou refuses as his mission remains focused on saving Gaia. This refusal leads to a boss fight against Misakuji-sama, who is arguably the toughest boss to beat in this game, even more than the final boss. Misakuji-sama is weak against ice, but he is very tanky. He can shoot stuff that immobilize you and have a really high damage physical attack that is hard to dodge. He also uses automate attack, which sends a charm-inducing shockwave. I am still using Jeffro as my ice damage dealer, and it happens to have a healing magic with it, which is bad because if Jeffro gets hit by one of those shockwaves, it will be charmed by Misakuji-sama and will start healing the boss every single turn without a fail. So instead of testing my luck on dodging those attacks, I return my Jeffros entirely and try to dodge all of the attacks by myself. Good thing that shockwave attack has a clear distinct sound cue because it makes it easier to time my dodge accurately. But it starts to get unnecessarily complex halfway through the fight, so I just entirely give up on trying to aim his weakness and go for those combo attacks like always. Just when things are about to proceed to the final stage, Rasputin makes his appearance once more, but this time, he doesn't want to bet on the possibility of losing to Raidou again, especially when he knows the sure way of winning. So this time, he is sent to the Raidou to another timeline instead. Now with no choice but to navigate this alternate reality, the next chapter begins. Chapter 9. The chapter begins with Raidou finding himself back in Sakuto. At first glance, everything seems identical to the real world. However, as Raidou explores, he notices several differences. For instance, he sees Gaia and Rin talking casually, which is something that shouldn't be possible in the real timeline. When Raidou checks in with Narumi, the landlord mentions that Narumi is out eating at the restaurant when he is supposed to use the money to pay the rent. As Raidou follows the black cat along the road, he encounters another Kuzunoha Raidou of different timeline. This alternate Raidou believes the newcomer is a fake and attempts to strike you down. But before things escalate further, the alternate black cat intervenes and suggests seeking guidance from the lady at the nameless shrine. The lady at the shrine immediately recognizes that you are from the another timeline. But in order to send you back to the original world, he requires 3 wooden snakes, which must be collected by defeating 3 mini-bosses in 3 different locations. You can tackle them in any order, but I chose to go sequentially. The first boss is Old Mizunu, a giant figure who kindly shrinks his size for better. Old Mizunu is weak to wind attacks, so I have Kuruma Tengu with me, who is important for 2 things. 1. This guy is the best wind level you can obtain easily, and 2. Kuruma Tengu is very useful during one fight in the late game. This guy also shoots magic as if he doesn't have a delay and for a really sizable damage, so beating Old Mizunu was easy. The second boss is Susanoo. It is weak to ice and I have Nagaraja with me. Although Nagaraja is slow at casting ice magic, it has a great magic stat, so when it hits like a truck. Also, he was the only gold ice devil I can make in this game, all because I was powering through chapter after chapters without grinding, which resulted in my character level capped at around 55, even after the game ends. So I didn't manage to make any high-ranking devils in my playthrough. And for the last boss, you have to fight Yamata no Orochi, aka my arch-nemesis. Electric is supposed to war against this snake, but the best devil I have at this time is this car, which has already fallen out of favor because of its low level and rank, so it doesn't survive for too long, which left me with this big-eyed devil that is lower ranking than Kurama Tengu. But don't underestimate this guy because it can shoot wind attacks like a machine gun non-stop, literally non-stop, and I'm not even joking. After clearing those pesky little Jet Frosts first to stop them from healing the snake, I beat the snake in a really straightforward fashion with my relentless wind machine gun. Once all 3 sticks are collected, the lady at the shrine fuses them into Amasu Kaneki, which is basically a huge wooden slab. She then tells alternate Raidou to perform a chant to activate its power, opening the way back to your original timeline. The ritual involves smacking you with a huge wooden slab after the incantation. And while I am joking here, wouldn't it have been hilarious if the game actually included in the cutscene? But now with the Amasu Kaneki activated, you are sent back across the time and space, returning back to the original world. Chapter 10. Raidou returns back to the office to report back to Narumi, only to find a note on his desk. The note urges Raidou to stay out of the trouble with the Marines and Mulakata, warning him that the situation has become too dangerous for an amateur to handle, and that he will take care of things by himself as the head of the detective agency. It is a rare moment when Narumi takes on the role of responsible adult, but you already know Raidou isn't going to sit this one out. The Black Cat directs you to the Marine headquarters where you can meet Sadakichi. There he explains that Narumi has gone off to confront Munakata on his own, but unfortunately, Sadakichi doesn't know where Narumi went. So without further clues on Narumi's whereabouts, Black Cat suggests you return back to the office. And to your surprise, Rasputin is there waiting for you. Rasputin now respects Raidou's determination to protect the capital at all costs, and so he is willing to reveal Munakata's plan fully to you. Basically, the satellite powering the Super Soldier project will use energy from the universe, channeling all of its energy to radio towers all across capital to summon the Super Core. Rasputin then advises you to check the underground facility just north of Kasumitai. This dungeon involves a lot of vertical navigations, requiring you to climb up and down ladders and jump from great heights. To progress, you must negotiate with the correct devil to convince them to break walls blocking your path. To be honest, every dungeons are underwhelmingly short and straightforward. If you are just going for the main story, you can go through later chapters in just an hour or so. Visuals are nice and all, but for gameplay wise, the length for every dungeon are just too short for me to sink in the mood and atmosphere properly. Inside, you find Narumi hesitating outside of the boss room. Although he is clearly terrified, it is commendable that he is able to come this far. Narumi explained that he wants to serve in military alongside Munakata. But Munakata from that time was totally different from what he looks like today. He still was talking about super this, super stuff, all kinds of super stuff, but at least he wasn't talking about sacrificing innocent people unlike what he is about to do now. Narumi once again urges Raidou to let him handle things, claiming that Raidou has his entire future ahead of him while Narumi had already lived long enough. But naturally, Raidou stepped inside to finish the fight himself because that's what he always do. Then it turns out Munakata has been dead for a while and serving only as a temporary medium for Sukuna Bikuna, a true mastermind behind the Super Soldier project. This revelation explains why Munakata always covers his mouth while talking, foreshadowing how he wasn't himself anymore ever since we met him. Then the game shows this sick scene of the ship turning into a mecha after fusing with Hiroko by using the energy transfer from the satellite. I don't know why Sukuna Bikuna had to go all this trouble just to put legs on the ship, but here it is, and this thing looks fire. The sight of this walking monstrosity is both absurd and incredible, perfectly capturing the over-the-top nature of Devil Summoner 3 climax. The battle against Sukuna Bikuna is one of the most fun and challenging fights in the game. The boss is lightning fast, making it very hard to land attacks unless you stagger the boss with ice-based moves. He can also call Hirokos when you least expect it, so pay attention to the sound cue or else Devil hit by Hiroko will be stunned, leaving them vulnerable for a few seconds, which will get immediately followed up by this superpower laser beam that will return your Devil back and you will not be able to resummon it for the rest of the fight, which could go out of control pretty fast if you are not careful, and in worst case, you might have to fight Sukuna Bikuna all by yourself, which is definitely the situation you don't want to be in. But now with Sukuna Bikuna down, all that's left is to deal with is the walking ship. Chapter 11. This chapter serves as a calm before the storm where you have to prepare for the final showdown against Munakata's satellite and the Super God. With Sukuna Bikuna defeated, you now need to destroy the satellite powering the entire project. However, destroying the satellite is easier said than done, and the journey to accomplish this unfolds in an unexpected way. First, you consult with Professor 99, the eccentric rocket scientist from earlier chapters. He is thrilled about the possibility of using a rocket to destroy the satellite, but however, there is a catch. He lacks the critical data about the satellite's structure and trajectory, which sends you back to Sadakichi at the Marine headquarters, because Sadakichi can provide you with necessary intel, but there is another problem. The data is entirely written in Russian, so naturally, you turn to Victor at the Devil Fusion shop for help. Victor then explained that while he can decode the Russian text, he lacks the processing speed to calculate the rocket trajectory in time, so instead, he suggests someone with a brain like a computer, which could only mean one person, and that's Rasputin. You find Rasputin casually chatting up Tae at the milk bar in Kinza. Despite the urgency, Rasputin refuses to help outright. This leads to a humorous and somewhat absurd situation where Raidou has to convince Rasputin, possibly with little force. That's why if you are still watching till now and haven't subscribed yet, you might want to be careful because Raidou might be standing behind you with something in his hand. Just kidding. Anyway, Rasputin eventually had to agree on helping you out with calculation whether he wants to or not, because he needs to get his body back. But unfortunately, the calculation reveals that while the rocket can reach the satellite, it lacks the power to destroy it outright, and so the only solution left for us is to manually board the satellite and destroy it from within. Tell that back to Professor 99, and now after we choose which devil will board the rocket, the cat will also go along with it, as there had to be someone to order devil to do stuff. As you already can tell, this is going to be a one-way trip, so this is going to be the last time we will get to see our cat. The next part can be annoying as your devil has to go solo, and I suggest having Kurama Tengu on board as he can block wind attacks from the angels, or else you will have a hard time trying to get through this chapter. Either way, your devil will be caught in an explosion together with the cat, so there is not much of a choice here. The mission then ends with a dramatic explosion with our black cat and Kurama Tengu sacrificed in the process. The Super God is now powerless, but the loss of your trusted companion adds a bittersweet tone to the victory. Now with the immediate threat neutralized, Raidou turns his attention back to saving Gaia and resolving the story once and for all. Chapter 12. The chapter begins with Gaia reappearing in front of Raidou, declaring that she has planned to leave this timeline and move to another one, as she deems her effort in the current timeline as a failure. Good thing Raidou already has been to another timeline and back, so he knows how to activate the wood slab again. But in order to activate the wooden slab again, you need to go talk with Sasage, Professor 99 and Tae, each of whom lends their strength and encouragement. This emotional send-off reinforces the bond Raidou had built throughout his journey, giving him the power of friendship necessary to store inside Amazu Kaneki to teleport to Akarana Corridor, a place between time and space. Akarana Corridor is a chaotic otherworldly realm that makes elements from the various timelines and realities. As a result, you encounter references from other Mekatan games, including Soaka, Shin Megami Tensei 1 and Shin Megami Tensei 2. This dungeon is a test of endurance, with significantly tougher random encounters and the boss rush segment where you had to fight all powered versions of the previous bosses. It is here I finally reached level 55, gaining access to Mishaguchi-sama, a devil I had been wanting to summon for the most of the game. But now with Mishaguchi-sama by my side, I felt prepared to face anything. Before the final battle, a wandering spirit asks you if you remember the dream you told to the dog earlier in the game. Answering correctly grants access to the healing spot and stat boosters. Nothing much, but hey, consider this as a little pat on the back and reminding you to keep chasing your dream. At least that's what it felt like to me anyway. The first fight with the boss is one-on-one sword fight. Well, technically not one-on-one as I have Devil with me, but since it would be unfair, I summon Nebilos and have a fight with her one-on-one that way. But that doesn't do the block any favor because Nebilos completely blocks physical attacks from her. So I just let Nebilos corner the boss and let it do the fighting while I enjoy the background music. The second fight is with the ship. Like which game let you fight with the ship for the final boss fight? Devil Summoner 3 is actually on league of its own. But the hard part here is not the ship, but clearing multiple waves of devils while it shoots from afar. I somehow managed to eat everything up it shoots, so I just entirely give up on dodging after a while and just try to focus on fighting devils. After you have cleared the wave, the ship will come near you and let soldiers on board shoot you. I took my position on the leftmost corner of the screen where there are less soldiers and just go hand with the attack until the ship sank. And then enters the third and final fight with the boss Yasumagasu. I focus on destroying two of his arms one by one to limit its attack options. Then when both of his arms comes down, it will change its attack button once again and shoots different stuff. But I'm still eating everything it shoots, so it doesn't really change my game plan that much. So as long as those attacks doesn't kill me in one hit, I'm fine. But after an intense fight, Yasumagasu is finally defeated. But the spirit possessing Gaia hasn't been completely expelled, so in one last dramatic moment, Raidou strikes with a decisive blow, severing the spirit's connection to Gaia and saving her for good. And that's the end of Devil Summoner 3. With the Super Soldier project stopped and Gaia finally saved, peace returned to the capital once more, and everything wraps up nicely in the end. Completing the game unlocks the hard mode, but after my grueling playthrough, I felt satisfied leaving it as it was. I initially planned to make a quick video about Devil Summoner 3, but here we are 40 plus minutes into the video. So thank you so much for watching the video till the end. Let me know your thoughts on the video, about the game, or maybe leave some game recommendation in the comments. Any feedback is appreciated, and as always, I'm Nai and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.